Hello, my name is Michael, and I'll be reviewing a speech by Jesse Roman, where his claim was raising the federal minimum wage will do more harm. He supported this with three secondary claims. First being raising the minimum wage will create more employment. Second being raising the minimum wage will dissolve small businesses. And third, raising the minimum wage will raise prices. I will be responding to his first and third claims with three responses. My first is being that raising the minimum wage does not guarantee more unemployment. In his claim, he used a quote by James Shirk that says, "Studies show that whenever labor costs go up by 10%, employment among less skilled workers drops by 7%. The federal mandate applied across the country would raise wage expenses by nearly 30%. That results in the loss of an estimated 7 million jobs." There's a few problems with this. One being that many states already have minimum wages above the federal limit of $7.25. So that already shows that raising the federal limit won't necessarily affect a lot of states since they're already higher than the minimum wage. Second of all, based off information from an article on PBS.org written by John Komlos, a professor emeritus of economics at the University of Munich, he states that in Seattle, the increase in minimum wage is being phased in much slower. It's only at $13 today for those franchises who claim employs more than 500 workers. It will reach $15 for such large establishments, but only for those not paying health insurance in 2017. He goes on to say, unemployment in Seattle during the year before April 2015 averaged 4.1%, whereas during the year after, it was only 4.2%. This shows directly that just because the minimum wage increased, there isn't a substantial change in the unemployment rate. It was only 0.1% more, which can be affected by a myriad of factors. To show more information on this, I looked up on the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics the unemployment rate for the LA area, which is right now roughly at a 5% average, and has been continually decreasing for the last few years. My second claim is based off a piece of evidence used for his first claim, using American Apparel, where he cited American Apparel laying off workers due to the minimum wage increase. However, American Apparel eliminating employees is not just because the minimum wage increased. In an article by Sean Lee, a journalist for the LA Times, she stated that last year Los Angeles County was home to 2,128 garment makers, down 33% from 2005, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics data. During that period, employment also plunged by a third to 40,500 workers. Wages, meanwhile, jumped 17%, adjusting for inflation, to $698 per week, although that include pay for top executives as well as bonuses, tips, and paid vacation time. Many apparel companies say Los Angeles is a difficult place to do business. Commercial real estate is expensive and limited. The cost of raw materials continues to rise, and it can be difficult to find skilled workers who can afford to live in the city. This just shows that just because minimum wage is going up, there's at least three other factors listed there that lead to their wanting to move away and also lay off more people. This also leads into the other factor that outsourcing is becoming more and more common every day. And so another quote from the same article is that Jeff Mervis, owner of the MGT Industries Los Angeles, said outsourcing was necessary to keep up with the low-cost rivals. MGT, which makes apparel sold to retailers, moved its production to Mexico in the 1990s, China in the early 2000s, Southeast Asia a few years later, although its designs and samples are still made in Los Angeles. This goes to show that just because minimum wage increased, they could just be using that as an excuse to move their employees out of state or overseas where it's going to be a lot cheaper, and they're going to still probably maintain the same quality as they have now. My final claim is that raising the minimum wage does not guarantee a raise in prices. Jesse quotes that companies facing a higher wage bill would likely to pass the cost on to their customers. However, there's evidence to show that the increase in prices due to recent wage increases has had no effect on actual prices. From the same article as before by Komlos, he states that Seattle's inflation was 2.5%, not very different from the 2.2% experienced by other consumers in the West, as indicated by the Consumer Price Index. To further show that there is no price change, I again looked at LA from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, which showed that the rate of inflation was 2.1% in December of 2016 from the year before, and while it was only 2% in December of 20% in 2015 for the year before. which is, again, a 0.1% increase, even though there was a change in minimum wage. So overall, even though he does cite evidence that shows there's signs of change, there's counter evidence from my examples that shows that it's definitely not the case everywhere, at least, that increases to minimum wage will lead to more employment or increases in prices, or even companies, moving to outsource. Thank you.
All right, Michael, structurally everything's easy to follow. On the first point, when you're talking about unemployment, the numbers are a little bit confusing. I mean, in essence, the comparison that you make in Seattle and Los Angeles does seem like there has been an impact, but you kind of diminish the argument by suggesting that there could be a variety of other factors. You're saying it's not substantial, and that part might be true. It's a little hard to tell with the very small number differences that you've got in that situation. But the advocate argues that potentially we could lose 7 million jobs over the course of this increase. Your argument here that says, well, it wouldn't really happen because some states have already done this, that's an attempt to diminish the argument, but again, I don't know that it denies the fact that there's going to be some economic impact. You've maybe diverted a little bit of the impact and maybe suggested that it's a little bit less significant than maybe the advocate talked about, although, again, I don't know that we've had the full impact of the wage increases that have been talked about here. Like in Los Angeles, I don't know if it went up to $15 an hour that year immediately. I know that Seattle, you mentioned that they were increasing it, but only under particular conditions, and still they're having some kind of effect that you described. So I think that's a little bit problematic. The thing that makes it more problematic is on the second point, although you have this argument that suggests that there are counter causalities, in other words, there are other things that have to do with why companies leave the area, and you talk about both American Apparel and MGT. Both of those, though, say that wages are a big part of this process, that cost is a part of the process, and so they're moving because of costs. When wages are a cost, so I'm not exactly sure that you've done anything except kind of reinforce the point. You've suggested that there might be other costs that account for this, but I don't think that necessarily diminishes the advocate's argument on this point. So that's the thing that I think makes your point a little bit harder on the first and the third points to take, because even though you may be diminishing the argument on those points, in the middle point, the way you diminish it is really just suggesting, well, it's still going to happen, and you provide just as strong a link, I think, to the wage issue as the advocate did. So that's a little bit confusing. Everything's nicely labeled, and I thought that you did a nice job trying to find a lot of statistics to support the position that you're taking, and it certainly seems less significant that the advocate started with, so I think that I would definitely give you credit for that. Thank you.